Hello, welcome. My name is Heather Darden. We're going to do a restorative pose for heart opening. So, restorative yoga, each posture is held from anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes. We'll be holding our poses for about 5 to 7 minutes. If at any time you feel any discomfort or anxiety, please take your time, come out of the posture, come up to a comfortable seated position, or just lay down on your mat and allow whatever needs to pass, and then join us for the next posture. You will need some extra props for this class because we will be using them throughout the sequence. Things you might want to have are a couple of blankets. I really like the blankets I got in Mexico. So fold them where you can easily fold them into this shape, a nice rectangular shape with the fringe off to the side. Got two of those. You may want a third blanket to put on top of you to stay warm. Often you do get cool doing a restorative practice. I have my sweater, which is basically like a blanket you can wear. I'll be using that. You can also use blocks. You can see them in the background here, 1 or 2 blocks. You don't have any blocks. If you have some really thick hardback books, those can also work as blocks. You just want to make sure whenever they're in contact with your body that the pointy edges are facing away from you in a way that won't jab into you. This is a bolster here. So these are pretty firm. They've got a nice shape. If you have a bolster of any kind, including the cylindrical kind, you can use that. If you don't have a bolster, an extra mat will also work, or a rolled up blanket or beach towel can be in place of this. You can also put blankets on top of your blocks instead of using a bolster. So, with all that said, if you need to go grab some props, go grab them. You may want to grab a glass of water. You will be breathing deeply, and that can make you a little bit thirsty. The other thing you should know is that this video has no music in it. That way you can do the practice in silence, focusing on your breath, or if you need music as a place to focus your thoughts and your energy, you can play any kind of music that you like that helps you to rejuvenate and restore yourself. So get your props, get your music ready, and we'll meet back here for a restorative practice of heart openers. I see you're back, so we will get started. We're going to start in a very simple heart opening pose. This is a posture that will allow your chest to open up. The shape that we're in a whole lot is this forward facing shape, kind of hunched over the computer. It can be really hard on your shoulders. It stretches out the shoulder muscles and it makes your chest really tight. So this pose is going to be the opposite of that. We'll be allowing the shoulders to rest and open up and just relax and let the muscle fibers shorten while we're lengthening out the muscle fibers that are across our chest. If at any time you feel discomfort, please come out of the pose. Listen to your body. Do what it needs you to do. To come into the pose, you're going to use a bolster or one of your blankets rolled up or an extra mat rolled up just to support your knees. That way your back will feel supported as well. You won't feel any pulling in your back. We're going to take one blanket and with the curved side facing towards you, going to put that down. Your next blanket is going to go right above it. That's going to support your head. And I'm going to move my blocks out of my way. So you want this across your upper back in line with your shoulder blades. So it'll be supporting your shoulder blades. You might need to move it around a little bit. My shoulder blades are a little further down than I originally had, and you might need to move the blanket or fold it a little bit more. Once you get here, Let your arms come beside your body. Allow your palms to turn face up. Gently rock your head side to side a few times, just loosening your neck. And take a moment to yawn. Just releasing your jaw. By releasing your jaw, you also release your hips, allowing your hips to open up just a little bit in this pose. So we're going to be here for 7 minutes. When we're about halfway through, I will let you know so that if you want to come out of the pose, you can. If you need to adjust something, you can do that. But do your best to cultivate stillness. That doesn't mean that you should be uncomfortable. When I say cultivate stillness, if you need to adjust your clothing, you get cold and you need a blanket, please do what you need to do, but then come back and be as still as you possibly can be for the rest of the time. Allow your shoulder blades to melt together and down. Let your hands be heavy. We are about halfway through this posture. If you need to make any adjustments, now is a good time to do that. If it's getting intense and you need to move out of it, bend your knees and slowly roll onto your side and press up to a seated position to come out of it. You want to be very gentle, going as slowly as you can go with your movements. You're going to continue to stay here. See if you can deepen your breath even more. Gently begin to deepen your breath. Bring it all the way down to the bottom of your lungs. Release it through your mouth, sighing. Deep breath in and sigh it out. One more time, deep breath in and sigh it out. Bend your knees, bring the soles of your feet on top of your bolster or your mat. Gently roll onto one side and press up. Breathe deeply and just take a moment to notice how you're feeling. We're going to move on to the next one, and to do that, I'm going to need to move my blocks and reconfigure one of my blankets. So you're going to leave the blanket for your head up where it was. Take the blanket that was underneath your shoulder blades and open it out into a nice rectangular shape. Take the side with the fringe and roll it in. You just want a nice big roll. The tighter you roll it, the more sensation you will have. So if you don't want too much sensation, you might just roll it up part way, so not all the way, or you might just roll it a little looser so it's a little mushier when you get your weight on it. This time, this one is going to go underneath your rib cage. So I didn't roll mine all the way up. I already know this is going to be intense for me. The unrolled part of my mat is going to go up toward my head. And I'm going to aim this edge down. And this other edge is going to be right below where my scapula, my shoulder blades are. So you want to keep that bolster for your knees. And you're going to come down. So now your chest is elevated. And you can feel a back bend in your lower back. And your shoulders are going to rest even lower on the floor. Once you get here, notice where you want to put your arms. I usually like my arms in a goalpost shape with my elbows in line with my shoulders. The backs of my hands face down. Some people like to bring their arms so that they are open like they were before and beside the body. Other people enjoy putting them up above the head. If you do take it up above your head, you will notice that there will be more sensation here. So if you do that, just be aware and make sure you're taking care of yourself. You don't want to hurt your back at all. We're going to be here for 6 minutes. So take a moment, try the different arm configurations, and when you find how you want your arms to go, take a deep breath in and yawn it out. Deep breath in and yawn it out. Deep breath in and yawn it out. Let your shoulder blades melt down toward the floor. And notice where your breath goes while you're in this position. You may notice that it's moved up a little higher in your chest. See if you can get it back down to the bottom of your lungs. You will feel yourself floating up and away from the blanket a little bit. Just be with these sensations. Notice what's happening as you inhale and exhale. I find that as I inhale, My shoulder blades come up off the floor a little bit. My rib cage presses down into the blanket beneath me. And as I exhale, my shoulder blades melt down just a little bit more, and my rib cage floats back down onto the blanket. If at any time this becomes too much sensation anywhere in your body, but especially your lower back or your shoulder blades, come out of it very gently. Bend your knees, turn off to the side, and gently press up. You might want to do a child's pose just as a counter pose to this heart opening. About halfway through, if you need to come on out of it, do so gently and slowly. If you're staying here, stay focused on your breath. Continue watching the cycle as your ribs press into the blanket and then release from the blanket. Very gently begin to deepen your breath. Bring it all the way down to the bottom of your lungs. Exhale completely. Two more like that. Inhale deeply. Exhale completely. One more. Inhale and exhale. Very gently bend your knees, bring your feet to the mat or on top of your bolster. Gently roll over to one side and press up to get prepared for the next posture. Notice where your breath is right now. We're going to be moving the blanket up a little bit higher. It's going to be similar to the first one we did, but it will be a little bit more intense because your shoulder blades will be up higher. So if the first one we did with your shoulders on the folded blanket was enough height for you, repeat that posture. If you want a little more height so that it is a little more sensational, then you'll follow me. You're going to take your roll and just move it further up toward your head. This time, your blanket roll is going to be right underneath your shoulder blades. So it's going to be lifting up your heart space while everything else melts down. If you feel any tightness in your lower back, or you feel like you can't breathe, you're panting, come out of the posture. Lean to one side, press into your hands and come up. Come into child's pose to release it, and then join us on the next pose. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself throughout this practice. These are heart-opening postures, so feelings, memories might get stirred up. Be aware that that may happen. You may want a journal nearby. You may want to make sure you have an appointment with your therapist if you need that. Just make sure you're taking care of your mental and physical health. So for this one, you want to go ahead and come back. So leave the bolster underneath your knees. You're going to lay back and let the blanket be right underneath your shoulder blades, and your other blanket is there to support your head. You might need to fold it again to give your head and neck a little more support. So be aware that there is some adjusting involved to make sure that you're not sending your throat back too far where it gets tight and the breath can't flow easily. You want to make sure you can breathe easily. Your arms here can come alongside your body. You can make that goalpost shape again. You can reach them up over your head if you want to, draping them over your blankets. That for me feels really good, so that's where I'm going to go. Be aware that this can be a vigorous stretch for your lower back. Your back may not like it when you get your hands up overhead. If that's true, then just keep them right next to your body, palms facing up. Wherever you are, allow your breath to deepen. See if you can melt just a little bit more into the blankets and the mat beneath you. When we're halfway through, I'll let you know so you can deepen it if you want to, or you can come out of it if you need to. Notice how your breath changes here. It's very different from the last one. Notice the differences and notice the similarities. We're about halfway through. If you need to come out of this, bend your knees, turn off to the side, and slowly come up, moving to a child's pose. If you feel like you want more, you can move your arms up over your head, sort of forming a halo around your own head, or just stay with your arms where they are. What will feel good for you? Very gently, you have your arms up overhead, bring them back alongside your body. Bend your knees, turn onto one side, and gently press up so you can prepare for the next posture. The next pose we're doing is a restorative bridge. There are many different versions of this. The version we're going to do will use 2 bolsters. If you don't have 2 bolsters, I'll show you a way to make a bolster. So you're going to lay the bolsters end to end. There's really no way to do this gracefully. You just kind of have to move around. You might want to leave a blanket for your head. If you don't have another bolster and you want one, you can bring your blocks, place them lengthwise, and then bring a blanket on top or 2. I recommend folding it in half lengthwise after you unroll it. That's one way to do it. I will be using my second bolster and getting this out of the way. So this one is nice for opening up the back. It feels really good after you have been at a desk all day, but you do want to make sure that your head and neck are comfortable and that it's not too vigorous for you. So once you have your bolsters in line, you want the bolsters far enough away from the blanket you've made for your head that your shoulder blades can rest in the space between them. You're going to allow your arms to open out. So make sure you have enough room here. You want this last bolster to be at the bottom of your shoulder blades. So to get onto it, I'm going to sit on the bolster, lay down. You may have to readjust yourself. Make sure that this edge is at the bottom of your shoulder blades. It's almost there. Now it's all the way there. And then get your pillow underneath your head. You do want it a little bit lower so that your throat can also open here. And then just lay out long. Let your arms open out or make that W/goalpost shape with your arms. And just breathe. This one really allows your shoulders to completely release. It can be a pretty vigorous heart opener, so if you're having any anxiety, remember, bend your knees, slowly roll off the bolsters, come up and go into child's pose. It's a great counter pose for this one. Take a deep breath in. And let it go. Take a deep breath in. And let it go. One more time, deep breath in. And let it go. We are going to hold this one a little bit longer. This one will be a 10-minute hold. So I will let you know when 5 minutes have passed. And if you want to come out of it and go into child's pose, you can do that then. Remember, at any time, if you're feeling any anxiety, any twinging or achiness in your back, please slowly and gently come out of the pose, take a child's pose, and breathe deeply. Come back to the practice when you feel like it. If you are feeling any pain in your lower back or it feels like this is too intense, you can always bend your knees, place the soles of your feet down on your bolster or walk them to the outsides of the bolsters. And that will relieve the tension that you might feel in your lower back. If you're still feeling a bunch of tension, just take a moment to roll out of this, come up and go into child's pose. We're about halfway through. Check in on your lower back. See if you need to come out of the pose or relieve some tension by bending your knees and placing your feet on the bolster or on the floor. And if you're okay where you are, just stay where you are. Continuing to breathe deeply. Be aware of what's coming up for you. Really be in this pose, in this moment. So stay with your breath. If you find your mind wandering to other things like stuff you need to do after this practice, stuff that you did earlier today, anything else, use your breath and gently bring your focus back to your body in this shape, in this time, and allow all other thoughts to float away on your exhales. very gently come out of this. Bend your knees. Bring the soles of your feet to your bolster or off to the side. And gently roll yourself off and come all the way up. So the next one we're going to do is probably the most heart-opening pose so far. You're going to need a blanket, 2 blocks or a bolster and a blanket. So the first thing you're going to do is take your blocks. You're going to put one toward the top of your mat, lengthwise, standing up. Your other one is going to go lengthwise, laying down, pretty close to your other block. Then you will take your bolster and lean it on these. So the bolster is now at a diagonal. See the diagonal? If you can't do this, just recreate the diagonal. You can use a couple of blankets stacked underneath your bolster or a pillow. You can use multiple blankets to get this sort of isosceles triangle shape. And then the way I like to use my blanket, because this is going to be a slight hip opener, is I open up my blanket to not just the small rectangle, but to this bigger rectangle. Take the folded sides and I fold them in to have a nice smooth edge, and I fold them again and smooth it out. I'm going to use this to hold my feet into place so I'm not gripping with my inner thighs. And I am going to put on my sweater because I am getting cold. So if you need to make those adjustments, go ahead. Maybe grab an extra blanket. Make sure you can be comfortable wherever you are. Maybe grab a drink of water. So here's how you're going to come into this. You want to take your bottom and back it up so you're right up against the bolster. You're right up against it such that when you lay back down, the bolster is going to be right along your spine. This blanket is to hold your feet. So your feet come into a bound angle position. And then you put your feet on top of the blanket and fold the blanket around you, making sort of a rainbow shape. That's just to give you some support underneath your calves so that you're not gripping in your inner thighs while you're here in this bound angle position. From here, now that you have your feet in place, you may want to put a blanket over your lower body. Slowly lower yourself back onto your bolster. Let your head relax completely, and you'll feel the opening across your chest, across your heart space. You can let your arms relax right next to you, palms facing up. You can also rest your hands on your lap or on your belly, palms facing down for a more grounding kind of energy. Whatever you choose, make sure it feels really comfortable. We are going to be here for 10 minutes. This is another really long pose. The longer you stay in it, the more you can really let go. So really allow yourself to melt here. Check in on your inner thighs. Are they hanging on to your legs? Use your next few breaths to let go of your inner thighs. Allow the muscles to relax. Check in on your shoulders. Are they still sort of moving up by your ears? Can you make them a little heavier? Maybe squeeze the shoulder blades together. And feel like your arms are just weights, drawing your shoulders out and relaxing them. You'll notice that you can get a really deep belly breath in this position. So see if you can take advantage of that, breathing deeply into your belly. You're here and this feels too intense, especially in your hips or legs, you can always bring your hands underneath the outside of your thighs. Guide your knees together, and you can stay there with your knees bent and the soles of your feet down on the mat. You can slide your legs out long and put a bolster underneath your knees if that would be more comfortable. Or you can simply come out of it, bend your knees, take your body over to the side, and gently press up like you have for all the other postures this sequence. We are about halfway through. If you find that this is becoming too much, very gently bring your hands underneath your thighs, bring your knees together, and roll off to one side. If you feel all right and you're continuing to rest in this heart opener, make sure your awareness is staying on your breath, on your practice. If your thoughts have gone elsewhere, just very gently bring them back, refocus them on your breath, how this posture feels in your body, and any emotions that are coming up as you breathe. There's no right or wrong. There's no good or bad. There's just whatever you find. Very gently begin to deepen your breath. Bring your hands underneath your outer thighs. Gently guide your knees together. Push the blanket out of the way if you used it. Get the soles of your feet down onto the mat. Take your knees and body over to the side and gently spiral up. So that was a really great heart opener. Hopefully you will reap the benefits from it. But it can be quite vigorous, and a counter pose is always nice. So we are going to do a child's pose as a counter pose, and then we'll finish in a shavasana. And I'll show you something you can do in your shavasana that will also be a little bit more of a back release. I'm just folding my blankets in case I need to use them. For this restorative child's pose, you may want a bolster or a couple of bolsters or a couple of blankets or a couple of blocks and a blanket on top. You just want to take your toes together and your knees apart about as wide as your mat. You can bring the bolster in close to you. I'm going to try it with 2 and see how I like it. And you're just going to fold over. So 2 is too much for me. My torso is really short. That doesn't allow me any release. So I'm going to stick with 1. You can bring your head down. You can bring your forehead to the bolster. You can roll up a blanket to put your forehead on top of, or you can simply turn your cheek to one side. We're going to be here for about 3 minutes. This is just a nice counter pose to all the heart opening you did. It can feel very agitating to do lots of heart openers. So this is a really good grounding pose. It calms anxiety. It calms any agitation and helps bring back that earth energy so you feel centered and really close to your own self. So we'll be here for about 3 minutes. So really allow yourself to melt. Focus on your breath. You'll notice that your breath in this child's pose, as you inhale, your belly and chest press against the bolster or the blanket, whatever you are laying on. And then as you exhale, you'll notice that you float away from the bolster. There's less pressure. You may also notice the breath in your back body a little bit more as you feel your lungs expand up toward the ceiling and out to the left and right sides of your body. Continue noticing your breath. Be aware of where you're feeling this breath in your body. And if you find your mind wandering, with your next inhale, gently bring it back. Refocus on your breath and let go of whatever you were hanging on to.
In this last minute in child's pose, is there anything else you can let go of? Not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. What else can you let go of? Whenever you feel ready, press into your hands. Walk your hands in towards your body. Move your bolster out of your way. So, the last posture in any yoga class is always Shavasana, corpse pose. After a restorative practice, it's good to take a 5 to 10 minute Shavasana just to absorb anything that's come up for you during the practice. You can go ahead and come out to a regular corpse pose if you want, your feet about mat width apart and your arms alongside your body, palms facing up, head on the ground. Or if you want, you can do a little more opening for your lower back by bringing your blocks lengthwise on their ends so they're nice and tall. And you can bring a bolster here and put it on top. You can create a nice tall thing like this, just stacking up blankets and pillows if you want. It's about a foot off the ground. If you don't have anything like this, but you have a chair nearby or the end of your bed, maybe you want to use that to put your legs up. Or if you have a handy wall, you can always go into legs up the wall. That's a nice release for the lower back. This one is just good to have in case you don't have a wall nearby or your chair or bed is covered in things and you can't really get your feet on there, or you don't have an end of the bed that's exposed. This is a nice alternative. Once you get it all stacked up, you're going to get pretty close to it so you can rest your calves on the bolster that you've put up here, and then just lay the rest of your body down. Allow your arms to open out, let your legs release, and just enjoy being here. Deepen your breath. Really melt as much as you can. When it's been about 5 minutes, you'll hear my voice again, but between now and then, see what more you can let go of and how much more can you release. You can release emotions, thoughts. You can release your body into the floor. What more can you let go of? If you want to continue to absorb your practice, please stay right where you are, enjoying your Shavasana. If you need to move on with your day, just start with very gentle movements like deepening your breath, wiggling your fingers and your toes, circling out your wrists and your ankles. Then take a long stretch on your mat. Stretch out as long as you can be. Reach out through your fingers, reach out through your toes. And then bend your knees in and hug them close. Gently rock side to side. Turn onto your side in the fetal position and take a moment here to just absorb what you've done in your practice. And when you feel ready, press into your hands and gently spiral up to an easy seated pose, whatever that looks like for you. It could be a bound angle, a lotus pose, or Sukhasana like I'm sitting in now, crisscross yoga sauce. Take a moment and send gratitude to yourself for your practice. And if you feel comfortable, you can bow with me in gratitude to all those that came before us to bring us this practice. And I thank you for sharing your practice time with me. I'm truly honored, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and that this practice relieved whatever you needed relief from. Thank you.